Hi, this is Yanis from Noisebud, and today Leaky 3, the liner face version of Leaky, will leave the beta stage and become an official Noisebud plugin. So, it looks like this. I'm pretty sure that you recognize it if you have downloaded and tried the beta. But with this version, there are small changes. You can see that there's a new control called taps there, and that the solo button has moved because I need to make room for the taps control. But that's pretty much what you can see have changed with the interface. Behind everything, there's a lot of things been going on. I discovered a lot of bugs with the last beta, but I think I managed to sort them all out. So this version I'm pretty confident that this will work as expected. And said earlier that I would make a setup that would either install both Leaky 2 and 3, or that I would merge them so you can decide if the filter would be liner face or not. But I'm not going to do that because uh, every time I needed Leaky, since I created the liner face version, I end up using the liner face version. It's proven to be better in pretty much every situation that I come across, which means that Leaky 2 isn't that the minimum phase filters in Leaky 2 isn't, well, you don't need them. You just need the liner face version. That's my conclusion. And if you still want to use the minimum phase version, then there's Leaky 2. I'm not going to remove that. So just download and install Leaky 2 if you need that. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the changes with Leaky. The taps control. The taps control is the steepness of the digital FIR filter. So the higher you turn it, it's a little bit like the Q knob in the former version. The steeper the filter gets, but it will also consume a lot more CPU. So if you don't need a very steep filter, leave it at default or even lower. It will be perfectly fine to use at the lowest setting. It's just the steepness of the filter. It's nothing that is the quality is higher or lower or anything. It's just the steepness. And that costs CPU. So if you don't need a really steep filter, well, turn that down and you will save some CPU. Yeah, there's two other changes actually since the last beta that you will notice. It's that the width control, you can see that it's grayed out right now, and that's because I can demo that. When you use the low pass or high pass, you don't need the width control. You can set the steepness of the filter with the taps control. So the width control won't do anything, and it didn't actually in the beta version either. It just worked when you used bandpass or band react, and when you changed the filter type to bandpass or band react, then the width controls light up, and you can start to use that. So you can see there it's grayed out. Now bandpass, it's visible. Another thing that I did is that when you hit solo, a part of the interface gets grayed out as well, and that's just to make it clear that you won't hear anything you do with the knobs that's grayed out. They don't affect the solo mode, so it's just to make that a little bit more obvious, so you don't try to use knobs that's not doing anything in a certain mode. Other than that, it's mostly things that's been going on inside the plugin. Uh, so I'm not going to talk about that either. It's just everything's works now. Things that didn't work, they work now. So that's why it's an official version. And I'm not. There's a lot of videos where I'm using leaky. So you can watch those if you don't know what the plugin does and want to know what it does. It's basically a mastering tool where when you have to fix problematic things with face, then you can use Leaky. You can also use it creatively, and that's the only thing I'm gonna show you today, because been playing around with a thing that I just found that's pretty funny. You can do this in several other ways, but this is just a funny usage of the plugin, and it's a way to add stereo width to anything, uh, and it sounds like an mastering trick that some mastering engineers use. I usually don't, but it's when you take an equalizer and you equalize the high end a bit differently between the left and the right channel, and it creates width in that way. And yeah, some people do that. It actually sounds pretty good, but the problem with it is that you pan stuff between left and right, and I have clients that always, when I try to do creative stuff like that, they call me and say, "Hey, it sounds really great, but the hi-hat, it's a bit too far to the left or far to the right." So they always notice that. They want their mix to sound like the mix did. But anyway, it's fun to play around with. And yeah, let's play this track here. It sounds like this. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna use the difference channels, the sides. Sum and difference is just pretty much the same thing that when people say mid and side. So sum is mid and difference is the sides. So I'm taking the sides or the difference, and I'm gonna use leak. So not taking anything away from the signal. The original audio remains as it is, and I'm gonna leak it into the sum. So the things that are in the side, I'm gonna leak that into the sum. And because of the phase relationship between the channels, that means that I will start to pretty much EQ one of the side, left or right, in the high end. Then I can change polarity and make the high end jump to either the left or the right. And let's see how that sounds. So I'm gonna start at 0 leak amount, and I'll start with the phase inverted. And I'm gonna use a high pass and set it like this. And I'm gonna start to raise leak amount a little bit. And I bypass. I don't know if you heard that. It's pretty subtle, but let's make it more obvious. So we're lowering the high pass filter to 20 hertz, so it's pretty much the whole spectrum. And I raise the leak amount again, and you will see what happens. All right, and now I'm changing the phase. So you can hear that the side signal is jumping between the channels, left and right. This is just a really fun way to mess with the stereo image that I've been playing around with this morning. And yeah, you can do a ton of stuff with Leaky. I think it's one of the better plugins that I ever made. And every week I find new stuff to use it for. It's really fun. Some things to consider with the line of phase version is that the tabs control. Every time you change the tabs, it will recalculate the delay compensation, which will make the audio glitch and dropout and stuff. You can see, I can play how that sounds. So you know what that is? It's the plugin recalculating the delay compensation. So I I don't mind doing it this way. The other way to do it is to set a set delay compensation, more delay compensation than needed, so more the calculations that are needed, and let the filter use that. Then you can do it without click. But since Leaky is it's not meant to automate the filter, so you don't use the filter in automation. You set it to fix a problem, and then the filter section will remain. So that's why I kept it like that. And um, I may work with that in the future to get rid of glitches, but for now, I think it's better to have a quicker, a less delay compensation, because we don't like latency. So it's already adding latency. So I wanted to keep that to a minimum. The other thing is it's pretty much the same when you change the filter. It's not as intrusive as the changing the taps control when changing the frequency, but it will also glitch. So you can hear that sounds too. It actually doesn't sound when you're not in solo mode, or not that often. So I solo. I don't know if you heard that, but there are small clicks when the frequency changes. And that's the same thing with the width control, because the width control also changes the frequencies. So it's the same thing happening. So that, just if you know that. And in the Windows version, you can't actually automate those parameters because I hide them from the DAW. But in the Mac version, I haven't done that because the Mac version is 3.0, while the Windows version is 3.01. I thought the changes was so minor that I didn't mind to update the Mac version for now. I'm sure I will do updates in the future, and then the Mac version will have the latest as well. But it's basically that in the Mac version you actually can automate the filter. You can't do that in the Windows version. So it's not a huge difference. It sounds exactly the same. So that's Leaky 3, the liner phase version of Leaky, and it's available on Patreon for patrons right now. And I'm going to make a demo version and a one-time donation version as well, because I know that a lot of people are waiting for this. So you will have that as well, but you have to go to Patreon to find the links for the one-time donation as well. So that's it. I hope you like it. I love Leaky 3, and I hope you will do too. Have a nice day. Bye bye.